is outrunning the crossing people, because they've already started closing streets in Yorktown now.
Okay, we are
Come back.
ready to begin.
Max?
Welcome to the September 21, 2022 meeting of the Board of Works of the City of Muncie. Could we have quiet, please? Will you please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for joining us this morning. Roll call, please.
Linda Gregory,
Present.
Ted Baker,
Present.
and Lola Maurer.
Present.
Okay. We will now deal with the claims, Mr. Wright. Oh, excuse me. We should do the minutes first. Sorry.
But don't sit down.
Don't sit
Wait
down. We'll be
there.
with you in a second. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
And I second it.
Are there any changes or additions,
No,
corrections, anything at all?
all good.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we're ready.
Good
Ready for
morning.
you.
I sent out the claims yesterday afternoon and just highlighted some of the larger claims, but on the most part, mostly bills, utilities, et cetera. So not a credit card week, so we didn't have those on there. So we'll open it up with any questions.
I have no questions.
I have no questions.
I don't really either. We had a couple of areas that could have had better descriptions, and I would urge you to pass along to those persons who are entering them to make them clear and
Will do.
concise and not repetitive with another column in the report. It's not
Yep.
meaningful when we don't have good information. Okay, is there a motion to approve the claims?
Make a motion to approve the claims as presented.
Second.
Any other questions or comments about this week's claims? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to unfinished business, is there anyone here on the lighting bid? Okay, we'll leave that on the agenda. I would think these two renewals would be new business, but we'll go ahead and deal with them. The first one is for Patricia, these are handicap permit renewal, parking space renewals for Patricia Crane at 1316 West Gilbert. Is there anyone here to speak on that? Okay, this is a renewal. There's no adjacent parking for this particular residence. Hang on just a minute, let me look at something here. Okay. Are there any questions or comments on this particular renewal? Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the renewal.
And I would second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we have one for Gordon Stifler at 1721 West 13th. This too is a renewal. This is adjacent to the residence. There's no other documentation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any additional comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's it for unfinished/new business. We don't have any itemized new business. Did you have something today? What is it?
Good morning.
Morning.
Stephanie Hutchison, Community Development. I have 4 contracts for Community Development's CDBG Public Service Program. We have a Christian Ministries for $25,000. We have a Muncie Mission for $40,000, and a Better Way Services for $38,000. and Home Savers for our homeowner rehabilitation program for $14,000. These funds come from HUD, and it's a zero cost to the city.
I'm sorry?
These funds come from HUD, and it's zero cost to the city.
Okay. We have no documentation on that. Is that something I'm going to need to sign if we approve them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there a motion to approve these 4 contracts?
I make a motion to approve the contracts.
I'd second it.
Are there any questions or comments?
Just real quick, what are they for?
Christian Ministries, that's for their men's emergency shelter. Muncie Mission, it is for administration of the hub that they have, and A Better Way is for administration, and Home Savers for the homeowner rehabilitation program. It's also for administration.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
We did.
We did that,
Ready to go.
okay. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Any other new business to come before us? Chris?
Hi there.
Good morning.
Chris Deegan, I'm one of the deputy police chiefs. Just wanted to discuss with the board the application for noise exemptions on behalf of the police department, at least. I'm sure that fire probably would have some input here as well, but I think they were tied up this morning. So we had a couple noise exemptions from last weekend that we had gotten multiple calls on. Somehow, some way, these got lost, and we usually get copies of them, and these got kind of lost in probably the shuffle of all the paperwork. So our uniform supervisors weren't aware that they were going on. Luckily, we tracked it down. Actually, Mr. Jernigan was one of them, and we don't want to cause him any problem if he's got an exemption. Really, the reason that I wanted to talk to you, and I talked to President Gregory about this, is the noise ordinance that's in place for the city is pretty specific on not times, but the distances that noise can be heard, either generated from a private property or in a public space. We've found that nothing good really happens after midnight in this city. And I went back through the call history, and I'm not saying that for the event that Mr. Jernigan had. There weren't too many people there from what I could see. But it does pose a problem for us as the police department, because people in the neighborhoods call us repeatedly to deal with the noise problems, and we are left with no recourse. That's kind of why the ordinance is in place to begin with. So I would ask the board to consider ways to either include the police department in the approval process, or make sure that we're not doing it without adequate notice. As far as I think the application form or the exemption form says it needs to be 3 weeks in advance, and I know it seemed like it was last minute for this past weekend for a couple of the events. But I want to turn the attention to the village real quick, because I know that one of them was for one of the fraternity houses. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. We've had several problems in the village area here in the last few weeks. I'm sure you guys have seen on the news. We've had a couple of actual shootings in the village. On Friday night, the shift that was working responded to, and this is just in the village, Friday night into Saturday morning, loud party at Rosewood and Bethel, loud party in the 1000 block of West Neely, loud party at the 900 block of West Riverside, and a suspicious vehicle report at one of the fraternity houses. Subject causing trouble at West Queen Street, loud party at West Neely Street in the 1000 block, fight in the village on the Strip, loud party at 1200 block of West Bethel, loud party at the 1900 block in North Rosewood, loud party at the 1700 block in North Glenwood, another fight at the same place in the village, one of the bars. Shots fired on Fraternity Row on Riverside at about 2:10 a.m. Another subject causing trouble at 506 North Martin Street. Another subject causing trouble trying to break into a house at 201 South Dill Street that came from the fraternity where the exemption was granted, and there was a great number of people there that were causing issues that now the university and excise police who enforces alcohol and tobacco rules are going to have to step in and take care of. I'll defer that to them. I don't have any of their paperwork yet on that. And then there's a couple more. So those aren't, whether I don't believe that all of those are centered around the exemption that was granted for that. However, it shows the great volume of calls that we are already going to in the village area. Subsequently, when they have the authority to do something like this and it goes into all hours of the night, it leaves us with very little recourse. Obviously for legal purposes. I mean, our recourse is shutting the party down because they're being too loud, and we have the ordinance to be able to do that. And when we have the exemption in hand, especially that goes, well beyond midnight, it makes it very challenging for us. So that's just some input. Again, Mr. Jernigan's probably aware. I don't know if he's aware or not, but we got several complaints down from his event too, just because of the hours that it was being conducted at. I don't know what best practice is for you guys as the safety board for the city, but my recommendation, my professional recommendation for something like this would be, I don't see the need for these events to go beyond midnight. I want people to have these events. It's part of what builds the community in the city, but we also have to take into account the other side of that too. So that's my ask of you guys.
Okay, I appreciate your concerns and bringing them to our attention. We do not have the noise form before us today. I'm going to request that it be put in our packets, or if you will, email it to us this week.
The actual ordinance?
No, well, the ordinance wouldn't hurt as well. I'm talking about the form that we
Oh, sure.
require for waivers. Individually, we're not going to meet or talk about it even on email until we meet as a board next week. But it would give us a chance to review and think about potential additions. I think at the very least, we might want to consider a police approval as a part of that application process. But in the meantime, if you will see that we get those, we can each individually take a look and be prepared next week. If you want to return, you're welcome to.
Sure.
I will say the majority of those complaints that you had would not have, the loud parties, for instance, did not come before us because those people are not requesting exemptions.
Sure.
They probably should be aware that they should, but they're not.
Right.
And I don't believe our form says anything about the decibel level. I looked at the ordinance quickly this morning and it said it was 90 decibels. I don't know what that,
It's not very loud.
it's not very loud, but I don't know what to compare it to. If you could bring us an example, like, what constitutes 90 decibels that I'm used to hearing, for instance?
Yeah, I
Not very
can.
loud at all.
It's not very loud. And it's a pretty strict ordinance. And while the exemption form that you has doesn't mention that, it references the city ordinance code, which then in turn references the
Yeah.
decibel level and the distance. There's a lot of things that go into it. And like I said, we want the police department, and I'm sure the city and you all want these events to happen. If people are following proper protocol to come here and get those approved, I don't want Mr. Jernigan to be able to have his events. I just don't see the need to have them until 4 o'clock in the morning.
And we need to take that into consideration. So we'll add that to the agenda for next week, and if you're available and want to come back in,
Absolutely.
we'd be happy to entertain your comments again.
I'm very glad that you brought this input,
Yeah.
because that's really important. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's a safety issue.
It is, and I can stand up here in front of you guys all day long. I'm not out on the street as much as I used to be. I'm a midnight person at heart. That's the shift that I spent the majority of my career on. And if I were to go back, that's probably where I would request to go. But I did bring one of the midnight shift supervisors that was here on Friday. If you'd entertain just listening to him for a couple of minutes on how busy they actually were this past weekend and some of the problems that these kind of pose to the police department and to the safety of the community.
And that actually takes you away from the other
Right.
items that need to be taken care of in the community.
Yeah. And like I said, it's not that we don't want people to have these kind of events. I'm all for it. We want the communities to be engaged and be doing things, but I'm a firm believer of personally and professionally. You know, my mom beat this into me since I've been about 5 years old. Nothing good happens after midnight. You know,
There, done.
with that, if you'd be willing to listen to him for a minute.
Sure.
Sergeant Vogel, you mind coming up here?
Hello,
Hi there.
I'm Dan Vogel. I'm a midnight supervisor. Just to kind of hammer on what he was saying, a lot of the problems we have, the prime example was like Friday night. We may have those exemptions, but the problem is whether we hear about it that night or not, it might be a few days later. To be honest, typically, especially around the village or especially around if the parties are centered around drinking, which a lot of them are, all they do is breed violence. That's it. People get things stolen. We're tracking down people's phones. We're doing battery reports. People get shot. Someone gets a gun pulled on them. They get something stolen or someone gets injured. And again, I know a lot of the stuff, especially in the village, it's not every frat house has the exemption. It's not every personal house has the exemption. But if there's one or two or three in that area, the hundreds of people that are out, they know it. And if there's room for the exemption to say, this is your cutoff time, and it's not 2 or 3 in the morning when the bars are letting out, because that's usually when we start having the fights, the crashes, all that kind of stuff, would just give us more room to stand on. It'd just give us a little more leeway that people would get the idea that it's over, go home, go somewhere, stay where you're at. I know some of it, a lot of the people too are not from here. They know when the parties go on. Especially, and it's something we're not going to be able to stop. But if we have some more ground to stand on and fight from, would be kind of nice.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, I appreciate it. Just some of our involvement. I think at least the administration, and then maybe that shift that's working. Because again, there's some that we don't get. And then we're kind of standing there, and we have to tell people, I don't know what to tell you.
Do you ever, there are fines associated with loud noise
Correct.
that could, you could determine from your investigation. Do you ever cite, like, say, these house parties as opposed to a fraternity party that's gone through the process, at least submitted an application, as opposed to one of these other locations that are just parties?
Kind of doing their own thing.
Do you ever consider, or should we consider, following through with citations and fines for those? Because they're fairly substantial fines.
They are. We have ordinance books for ordinance tickets for things like that. Typically, even if they have the exemption, the way we like to handle it is whoever owns a house, whoever rents the house, make contact with them first. Kind of, we understand there's people here doing your thing, but in a short amount of time, wrap it up. If not, then we do.
Okay. Well, I think that, that would be another measure we might take. So, and a reminder of that on the form.
Yeah, even if it mentions the fees or possible penalties, I don't think that's a bad idea, just so they're aware of it.
We could add like the police and fire signature on that as well.
Yes.
Or, well, and the fire department, I guarantee you, for businesses and the frat houses, they're way over capacity. There's no way they're not. There's some we go to that, I'm not kidding, people, you can't stand shoulder to shoulder. It's face to face, and they have to slide through each other to get out. And again, the other issue, it's if it goes till 2 or 3 in the morning, we get the calls, and it's like, we're trying to sleep. What's going on? And sorry, they have an exemption.
Yeah.
So
Well,
maybe
I don't
consideration
think
where they are as well.
None of the frat houses, none of those were more than, I'm thinking midnight, 1 o'clock, maybe, if that. I personally have reservations about after midnight as well, so that's going to be something we'll take a look at.
Yeah, it definitely, the later it gets, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
For sure. So,
Okay, we appreciate your
Yeah.
comments, and we will certainly take them under advisement.
Thank you.
Thank you
So
very
that
much.
will be on our agenda for next week.
Yeah, Linda, just a quick question, or comment or question, is that, you know, if the ordinance says 3 weeks' notice or whatever, I mean, first of all, do people know that?
Yeah.
And second of all, do we hold them to it? Say, no, you don't get your exemption.
Yeah.
You know, I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's a start too, but I think part of it is people have to be educated that you need this.
Well, part of that, and I agree, but not everybody knows the rules. And I think we need to be flexible. If this is an annual event, then yeah, there's probably no
We
excuse.
understand that, yeah.
Yeah.
If this is your first time, thank you for at least acknowledging the first time.
Sure,
Right.
But if you think you're gonna do this again, here's the procedure.
yeah. I agree. I was just kind of bringing
Yeah,
that up.
and one of the things that I would anticipate, if we add a police and fire sign-off, that they're doing some kind of due diligence to see whether, has this organization had any experience in the past? Have we had complaint calls about their prior activity? And if
Yeah,
so, we
they'll
need
know.
to know that.
Yeah,
And, maybe it's a tentative approval.
The police department would probably recognize locations and, yeah, names, right? Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
So,
so we
we're
will
headed
be
the right way.
prepared to deal with that next week. Okay, is there anything else to come before us? Yes, Mr. Jernigan?
Good morning, hi. The officers, they did came by a few times by my place last week. They was really nice and polite and understanding everything like that. And I showed them my exemption that I had. I also come to put another exemption in, but what I did do is I listened to these guys, but I kind of come up with my own thing that where I need to start having it like 3 or 4 in the afternoon and not go past midnight. So I do agree with these guys. I didn't have, don't judge me, but I probably didn't have 2 people in my thing because I started so late. But I do promotions sometimes where I'll be trying to do to get people to come by and pass out literature and things like that. But I got by the office. She explained to me that you have to be there a Friday before
To get on the agenda?
Yes, and then she also said that I can come down and ask you guys if I could still be heard and maybe have something. So may I pass these out to you guys?
Sure.
May I approach? So this is 3-3.
Okay. These are for 2 different
Yes.
dates, okay?
Last week, the officer, he didn't have a copy of my noise ordinance, so I gave him a physical copy that he would have and things of that nature like that. I really wasn't playing my music too loud per se. I'm in a commercial zone area. I think it's just one house in my whole entire, between my lot. And so I did move my time down. I might not go to 12 o'clock, but I did put on there not past 12 o'clock.
Okay.
So I'm asking if I could have an ordinance from, I think it's 4 to maybe 12. I might shut down 10:30, 11 or so.
In that one house, have the residents of that home will they be notified of this?
Yeah, John and I are pretty good.
Okay.
He watches over my lot as well when I'm not around. So
Because I think that's the kindness factor there.
yeah, he's
Give
it's only,
respect to other people in the area.
yeah, I'm right across the street from Stubby Tires, so it's just one house, and then there's no other houses around. There's Zips. There's it's vacant houses. There's nothing else in my area there. But I will. I didn't really play my music loud, but I'll keep it down as these guys best I can. I don't know what 90 decibels is.
You're probably over 90 right now.
I hope not.
I mean, it's almost close. It's not very much.
I hope not there.
Well, and maybe one of the things you might think about doing is have somebody walk a block away. And how loud is it?
Sure.
Because you may have people living, a block, 2 blocks
Well, again,
south or north, and
yeah, believe me, there's no one in my radius. I only
Okay.
got one neighbor, and he can have a fenced-in area with barbed wire, of course, but 2 gates, and then his house is right here, so he can actually look and see my whole property over here. Other than that, there's no other houses in that area, things like that. And it's controlled, like I said, I put the green privacy mesh up so that people just can't drive by and see or whatever. And I got someone working the gate in case people do come in.
The main thing is you're here. You're addressing it. That's the best part. You're trying to do it right. So with much appreciation. Thank you.
Yeah, so I won't go past 12. This is my first time doing it, so I figured, I don't know. But now I'm not going past 12. I was tired.
Well, and I think we also expressed some concern if there's alcohol present.
No, we was all fine. Like I said, wasn't nobody there. Nobody but me and one other guy, I think it was.
Okay, is there a motion to, one of these applications is for this Saturday?
Yes, ma'am.
One is for next Saturday. Both of them are from 4 PM to midnight.
It may go less than that, but that's just, I don't want to go past midnight, period. I mean, I do agree with these guys. They got a lot to do. Like I said, they came by, they was polite, nice, and I explained to them that, here's my form, and they was pretty cool, so.
All right. Is there a motion to approve these two requests?
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve.
And I would second it.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I have a question.
Come to the, you need to come to the podium and give us your name, please.
Hi, Sherilyn Waters, Community Development. When they have alcohol present, do they have to have police security?
No, but often if they plan to have alcohol, they've also planned to have some kind of security as well.
Okay.
Not very many of our applicants say that they're going to have alcohol.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons I ask, because I want them to be mindful of,
Right.
of the consequences of having alcohol and a lot of loud people.
Right. Well, maybe if they had to have security when they had alcohol, they would tell you the truth.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
certainly a consideration. And that's why I asked the question, so that they're
Yeah.
at least prepared to deal with it.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any further comments or questions? Not? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good luck and keep it out before midnight.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else to come before us today? If not, have a good week. We will see you next week.